We are the opposite of politically correct. You have been warned. Content is explicit. Welcome. You are listening to Bewitch Banter with two best friends.
One skeptical. Over there's Amy.
Yep, I'm here, and our resident believer, Krista.
We talk about the universe and all its divine powers and beauty.
Or what I would call magical thinking.
But really, though, we do talk about the spooky, the spiritual, some whack-ass religions, cults, and the paranormal.
And I like to bring us back to Earth and talk about how the science community debunks most of this shit.
Yeah, this bitch needs to get right with the universe. We are not scientists, folks, but we just love the universe up in here.
Yeah, we do not need a disclaimer. And today, we did not invite scientists on the podcast, but we invited my dear best friend from third grade, Jennifer, and her husband, Jonathan. And it was such a great conversation. And they are like the lover version of me and Krista. They're dynamic where Jen is really in line with Krista with being spiritual. And then Jonathan's more on the side with me, more analytical, looking at things, and more of a non-believer view. And they are the real living example that you can live together, be married, have kids, and make it work. So we got that in store for us, Krista.
And their daughter's beautiful. And also, me and Amy are engaged, and I'm pregnant, if you recall from our anniversary episode. So technically, we will be making it work as opposites besties. We are married to this podcast, and we are having the podcast baby, the Bewitch Banter baby. So it was so fun. Thank you, Jen, for being our one and only fangirl. We love you.
We do love you. Thank you so much. It was so fun, and we can't wait to have you back on the show.
Anytime, girl.
Today on Bewitch Banter, we have a very special guest, my best friend, Jen. She told the whole school we were going to be strippers when we grew up. Do you want to introduce yourself, Jen?
I am not a stripper. I became a childhood therapist. But yes, I did tell our fifth grade class that Amy and that was our hopes and dreams to become strippers.
I did cry. Would let you down to this path of becoming like a child therapist over a stripper. Better pay, better benefits.
Better benefits. You know, I'd probably have to work out more being a stripper.
That's true. And then we also, who's joining you today?
And joining me is my husband.
Also not a stripper. I'm Jonathan.
We invited them on. Well, Jen kind of invited herself.
Which we welcome anytime. Please.
Yeah, I just kind of invited, us on because I'm so like Krista in my beliefs, and Amy reminds me so much of my husband. So, and this is just kind of our dynamic every day is like what you guys talk about.
That's amazing. And me and Amy are engaged, and I'm pregnant. If you listen to our other episode, I don't remember which one it was. So I think, it's our anniversary episode in October. That's right. Technically, this feels like a marriage, to Amy's point, but it's been an incredible journey, and like, I'm just so grateful that I get to steal her over here in Arizona as a good friend. So thank you.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Our listeners already know our beliefs, but I thought each of you could tell like your beliefs on like the spooky, the paranormal, religion. I already know this, but maybe Jen can go, and then Jonathan.
I just saw Jonathan's face real quick.
Can explain his beliefs.
It's a very funny face.
I'm more spiritual than religious. As far as a God, I really don't know what I believe or what I would like define my religion as, but a lot of like Buddhism practices, mindfulness, just being a better person, being a good person. I believe in ghosts. I know Chris is like, give me the ghosts. Like, I believe in ghosts.
Bring them out.
I believe in everything kind of paranormal, just kind of everything spiritual, astrology, all that kind of, crystals, just give me all the kind of witchy stuff. I believe in all that kind of stuff.
And what about Jonathan? What's your beliefs? Or lack of beliefs, I should say, because I already know your position.
I mean, I'm a fairly card-carrying atheist. I don't believe anything that's not provable by novel, testable predictions. So, yeah, I mean, no ghosts, no aliens, no.
I thought
God.
you believed in aliens.
No, aliens.
Okay.
Were you raised atheist, or is that something?
No, I was raised Methodist. I was baptized Lutheran, confirmed into the Methodist Church, and saved under a Methodist preacher, minister.
Something like that.
Fun fact. Sorry, my face is too close to the camera.
I love you, Jen.
But fun fact, we were both raised Methodist. And we both
that was my question. Okay.
Yes.
Because I know Amy was drugged to church with your family many a Saturday or Sunday. I was raised Roman Catholic. So that's where a lot of my spooky, ooky beliefs I learned stem from, actually. But that's what I was going to ask you, Jen, was do you feel like maybe being raised in some type of organized religion has influenced your belief in the paranormal stuff?
We didn't, I don't know about your church, but we really didn't talk about a ghost a whole lot. I know a lot of my family members that are religious have had like ghost experiences from family members that have passed away.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're open to it, I think, but we really didn't talk a whole lot about ghosts or paranormal. I think I believe in ghosts, and a lot of my family members have had experiences. So it's like, I don't think they would make that up, or, I think they really did see like things or hear things.
Jonathan, I was going to ask you, when did you, because obviously everyone has their own experience, like you're raised religious. When did you kind of stray from the church? Was it, I know it's not usually like one moment, but what kind of led you to change your beliefs?
It would have been around 20 years old is probably when I could really pinpoint that I no longer had any kind of feelings about Christianity. But I mean, it was probably a long time coming from about 16 on. 20s when I kind of gave up and stopped trying to find God or to seek him out. So no, there was no like definitive moment. There was no like, oh, aha. It was just, it's hard to say that I ever really, truly believed. I know I did, but like the way a 16-year-old would, the way
like your parents kind of, you're like,
right.
I want to please my parents, basically.
Well, so we moved to Indiana from California at my ripe age of 11 years old. So I was always seeking out a group that was accepting and felt like I belonged. A church youth group fills that void pretty quick. So that's where it started for me. And I did believe, in my heart of hearts, I did. It didn't take much for me to start questioning it and not really leave the church.
Walk us through a day in the household.
It's not really anything novel or profound. Like this, we don't talk about religion on a day-to-day basis. I don't know that it's terribly important to both of us. We talk about our days and our goals in life, very secular manner.
I think it's easier because I'm not super religious, because we were talking about like, if I was very religious, went to church on Sunday, we don't know if it would work out.
I don't think we would have made it. I don't think we would have made it this far.
And I think some couples make it, but I don't know. Like it would be very, very difficult. I get some eye rolls sometimes, or just like, oh goodness.
Well, talking about that, Jen, since you're the therapist in-house, even though I remember back in the day you told me, I was trying to get relationship advice, and you told me you didn't know how to give relationship advice to normal people. I remember we were at the bar after a few drinks, and I was like, I need advice. And you're like, I don't talk to normal people. But how...
I love
it.
Why she married me.
Yeah. I was going to say, she's not normal. You're good.
How would you, if you were talking, because I know you have done relationship counseling, but like, how would you talk to a couple who have extremely different views, like when it comes to like maybe religion or anything in that world? Like if they're having conflict, what kind of advice would you give them? Like, would you say get divorced, or what would you tell them?
I think it does, in a way, like on a level, it does make things harder. If he believed in rituals and like witchy things, like charging my moon water or
What is that, by the way? What
I
is
did my
that?
moon bath last night.
yeah, I was gonna ask you if you did anything because it was January 6th, a full
I
moon.
do every full moon. I read my tarot. I do a 3-card spread, and I
Yes,
reflect,
yes.
and I take a bath. So yes,
Wait,
That's
explain
awesome.
the moon water thing for a
I
second.
haven't done that, but yeah, you go ahead, Jen. Take it away.
Yeah, well, there's just different rituals you can do. Like, so you're supposed to leave just like a glass of water or a cup of water outside, and the moon kind of charges the water. Just healing
Okay.
powers, kind of
Mhm.
stuff. It would be nice to have a partner to like do things like that with, but I
Mhm.
just know now, like, he's just not the person I go to. I have, my best friend is really.
Do you want me to go outside and put water outside with you? I will go outside and put water outside with you.
He'll do
I mean, you would
it.
roll your eyes the whole time, so that's why I don't ask you to like charge
Yeah,
moon water.
I think I would
No.
too.
Yeah. Like it would be like Amy would be like, "Oh my gosh, Jen, what the hell are you doing?"
Does Corey put glasses of water outside?
I haven't noticed.
But what I would say is like it's going to be harder in ways. And we were talking about this too, like before the podcast, just how we make it work and kind of connect. It's just all about communication. And I think it's just respecting that.
So what would you tell someone though if someone wasn't respecting their, like, let's say someone comes in, they're a couple, and the wife is like, my asshole husband named Brad.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were just going to end it on my asshole.
It was a nice dramatic pause.
Where are we going? Where are we going with
My
this?
asshole's talking to me at night. What would you tell them? No, what would you tell them if they said like, my husband Brad is a dick and won't respect my beliefs? Like, how could someone like have that conversation with them? Like, how could someone prompt the conversation with someone, or like anyone listening, if they have someone who doesn't respect their beliefs? Like, how do you set boundaries?
Yeah, I think that's what I was going to say. Like, it's just all about boundaries. That's not okay to like eye roll when I'm doing this, or like, I need you to respect the fact that I go to church, or, respect the fact that I go to yoga every Sunday, or, whatever. Like, I think it's just all about like establishing boundaries and telling them, no, like, I'm not okay with that behavior, and that's got to stop, and you have to show me respect. But then if they're not going to respect that boundary, then that's another thing. It's like, okay,
Right.
like, what do you want out of this? Like, if he's not going to change, then, are you going to show him the door or not? So
I sure did.
me and Chris have had several conversations through the podcast about how like Krista sometimes will be like, well, it's just like, what's the harm in believing in this? But sometimes I do think there can be harm when it causes people like to have illusions on like what's real in life. So if someone, for example, like let's say we know like conspiracy theories, like QAnon and all that shit. Like, so if someone had a family member who believes in that, and they like, there's a difference between Krista believing in tarot, and I can kind of be like, oh, that's harmless. That's her doing self-improvement. It's not like making her live in this fake fantasy world or having like harmful views where she like wants to go out and like shoot people.
That's the nicest thing she's ever said to me, you guys.
I mean, I teared up. I did.
That is not true.
I know it's not.
But if you had someone like if you have someone in your family, how would you even approach them though? I guess like how do you get people to start to see reality? Like how do you like do you have clients that come in and you have these preconceived notions and you have to work through with like what you see isn't real? Like this isn't real life or real reality of how you view yourself?
I don't, because I mostly work with kids and parents.
God bless, by the way.
Huh?
God bless what you do, truly. Because you probably see some shit. That's
Trying
another
to change
conversation.
one kid at a time in this generation. Yeah.
That's hard work.
Yeah. But I think that brings up a good point, because I'm sure like families across America are having to deal with that same situation, and I think he'll probably have a lot of opinions on this too, like how extreme people are getting into stuff. It's so scary. And I think it's a lot of irrational stuff, and trying to rationalize with this irrational belief system can be difficult.
I think it goes back to, I say it's almost every episode, but the world as a collective, the universe as a collective, we are all so sick because, as you well know, mental health has never been addressed or cared for at a mass cause or scale or addressed at the root. And I think people are going to those insane conclusions. We're all hurting collectively in so many different ways. And I think, to your point earlier, Jen, that's why so many people are reaching for these outlandish band-aids to heal their wounds, whether it be QAnon or whatever crazy religion, right? Like my therapist once told me that religion can be a drug just as much as food or sex or actual drugs. And
The lamest drug.
What religion? Oh, fuck
If I'm gonna do a drug, I want to do something fun. I don't want to like praise God.
But anyway, that was just one comment I had on that, and I think, you know, that's probably why people are reaching towards all these things that, and even to that point, witchcraft, right? We just interviewed my friend Courtney, our recent episode of the first of the new year, and it's all about just finding that autonomy and finding a DIY purpose, right? Some purpose, right? With all the shit going on in the world. That's my little soapbox of witchiness. My witch box.
My witch box. I love it.
Jen, so you were raised Methodist, it sounds like, right? So what brought you to the more coven side of the world?
Well, it was before Jonathan, like even, and you know, and Amy probably had a lot of influence on me too, just to kind of think outside.
I was like, what?
Outside the box, you know, because I feel like you were kind of getting there, Amy, in like high school and stuff, like getting there towards your belief of like a firm atheist. And I think it was just being around like different people and different ideas. And it's like this whole teaching, is this like real? Is this legit? And learn, like I was telling him about, I don't know if you were in World Civ, but we in high school just learned about different religions and different types of people, and I think just more education too. And I'm like, there's so many different things, like, is this right? Like, you know, the Christian God, like, how can this be real, you know? And really for me, it's just what people have done to the religion, you know, like being a therapist, I feel like I have to be open with new people and very liberal with my social views and things like that. And how they've created divide with people that are transgender, gay, or just like, you know, believe in different things. Like that was really, I think, what put me down the path of like other things. I just didn't like what they were doing with the religion.
Is it equally as patriarchal as Catholicism? I don't know.
I think all Christianity is, isn't it?
No.
I feel like Catholic, I mean, it was probably like deep
rooted. Like it's disgusting. I mean, so my mom was raised from kindergarten, and she actually ended up going to a Jesuit college in Connecticut. Because of that, she was forced to, right? Her whole life be forced in it. And she said, girls, you're going to get your basic religious ed and then do what you want, make your decision. But through that, you know, you just see like all these things of like anti-abortion, and my sister, go figure, is an abortion provider today. And ever since she was little, I swear to God, she used to like raise her hand and be like, excuse me, this is scientifically incorrect. Like, because they're teaching the rhythm method at like, what do you call it? The marriage classes.
What's the rhythm method? I've never really heard that.
It's apparently that you can do a certain rhythm to not get pregnant, or to get pregnant, excuse me, because they want you to procreate, obviously make Jesus's children, more God's children. Yeah. And she's like, actually, that's not scientifically correct. But even before she became very into women's rights and health, she was very much, she saw that patriarchal chokehold, is my point. I was definitely, I had a little bit of mask over my eyes, I think, for many, many, many years. Not that I was like uber religious. I never was. We didn't ever go to church on every Sunday. It was only Easter and like Christmas. We were like the quote unquote bad Catholics. Until the allegations of rape started coming out, pedophilia, that's when I was like, oh, hell to the no. And then I started really researching it and was like, absolutely not. That's not something I can support. I just can't. And that kind of drew me more and more towards this alternative DIY spirituality. And that was, I'd say, high school, maybe middle school. I don't know. I couldn't put a timeline on it, but that's where I was like, I definitely believe in something, but it sure is not the one almighty white male God.
Right. And I feel
Amen to that.
Yeah.
And I was very blessed to have a CCD teacher, which is like basically Catholic ed after school. And he said, that's what he said. He said, question everything. And I was like, sure do, including the God you're preaching about. So.
Right. But that's so true. Like, think outside the box, though. You know, it's like critical thinking. That's what needs to be taught, not just like, this is the way it is, because it's always been like that.
Here's my other thing. If you can't prove that it doesn't exist, then how can you sit there and tell me that it does?
That argument sucks, Dick.
It's the burden of proof fallacy.
What's that?
The burden of proof fallacy is you make a claim, then you put the burden of proof on me to disprove your claim. Whoever makes the claim proves the claim. So my belief in God isn't a not belief in God. I don't say God or deity or ghosts don't exist. It's just not the answer I give to phenomena.
Got it.
So I
respect that.
You send something, whether it's a ghost or with your tarot cards, or you put a woo-woo, puts that answer to the phenomena. An atheist, for lack of a better term, doesn't.
Got it.
We don't have an answer for it. So if you're putting the claim that there was a ghost, then it's on you to prove that it was a ghost.
Okay, I respect that. I respect that very much.
I agree, because I feel like a lot of my thoughts when people say, like, when Jen was like saying earlier, like her family have experienced ghosts, I don't discount people's experiences of what they think they've seen, but I think there's something behind it that maybe we can't even explain, but there's something that happened, and there's, like you're saying, like there's some kind of proof, we just don't know how to explain it. When people tell me their experiences, I'm not discounting, maybe you do feel like you saw that, but I don't really think it was a ghost causing it.
She discounts 11/11 sightings on the daily of mine, so.
Well, Krista believes in, what is that?
Synchronicity. So I have literally seen 11/11, 1/11 in the repeating ones in any form.
It's called pattern recognition.
That's Amy's claim. And again, I see her point. I do. However, like, it's not that I'm out there seeking this pattern.
Yes, you are, because you keep talking about it, so you're actually seeking it out.
I'm not, because every time I look up, it just happens to be that.
And then
But it's a feeling. It's a feeling. It's like a connection. It's something that we can't explain, you know, and I think I think he's always going to have the better argument, because it's always going to be evidence-based and proven. But mine's more of a feeling and a belief and a connection to something higher than me.
Couldn't it be a placebo feeling? Like the feeling is coming from something. I think Krista it's a placebo, because Krista thinks like this number means something. And I think she doesn't say she's seeking it out, but I think she is, because she never messaged me, I saw 1237, because if she started doing that, she would start seeing it more.
I'm going to start.
So that's confirmation bias?
Yeah, that's what I'm also looking for, confirmation bias.
It's a confirmation bias. You probably see 9s everywhere you go, too. You just don't see them, or you don't acknowledge them, because your mind is too busy thinking of, is it 11? Is that what you were?
11/11. Repeating ones. Oh. Yeah.
Repeating ones.
So, repeating ones is just repeating lines. You can see vertical lines everywhere. So, or
that's true. But I think there's something to, I forgot what episode we covered this, numerology perhaps. But and Amy's point was that there's patterns in nature. Of course there are, right? But like, to that end, and to Jen's point, like, nature repeats itself. And I think that there's some type of psychic, spiritual connection to nature and like repeating patterns. And again, I don't have the scientific basis or knowledge or background to back up what I'm saying. I don't. Right. It's just, it's an innate intuition.
Yeah.
I'll agree with you. There are absolutely patterns in nature, and we are pattern recognizing machines. Mm-hmm. We're just going to recognize those patterns just naturally. And then some of us are just going to make a connection to those patterns and see something in them. But
that's my question always is, what's wrong with that? Oh, I'm sorry.
No, there's nothing wrong with that.
I'm sorry.
Nothing wrong with that at all.
You know, because we have this debate all the time too of like tarot. I'm not a diviner. Hell no. I can't fucking tell your future. I know nobody's future. I use it. Amy actually complimented me. I'm shocked. It's a self-improvement tool, right? I mean, that's what I'm using it for. It's not to divine what the fuck I'm going to do tomorrow or find my next lover. What am I seeking today? What do I need to improve on? And that's what I'm going to do. And so if I'm using it for that, whether it's placebo or not, what the fuck's the harm if it's for the betterment of myself or people or society? And that's what we always argue.
But I've never said it's harmful. I think it's when people take those cards and they actually think they have magical powers, and they're like, well, the tarot card told me to go kill my grandma, so I'm going to go kill her. Extreme it's like example. Extreme example. But I'm saying it's when people they start to lose realities when these little harmless things can be harmful. I'm not saying your tarot cards are harmful because you obviously use them to better yourself, but some people could be like, the tarot card told me I have to do this. I don't know. Like, that's probably an extreme version.
Well, it doesn't have to be a tarot card either. What if they're taught to constantly like listen to what the intuition is in their head?
Mm-hmm.
So it's fine for you and Jennifer and me, but all of a sudden you have a mentally ill person who's taught from a child to listen to the intuition inside their head. And so they do that and they grow up with this mentally ill that's completely undiagnosed for whatever reasons, and then they act it out. So, I mean, it can be harmful to teach people to listen to that the voice inside their head is something better than them or something bigger than them. We have an entire human history of people doing things because they believe God told them to, or something bigger told them to. So it can be harmful. Generally speaking, no. And
that scares me. The whole, like, God told me to tell you to do this, or that's scary. There's some things that it's too much for me. Yeah, that's way too much.
My father was mentally ill, diagnosed, treated his whole life for it. And he heard voices. Luckily for him, he had a family that was supportive and sent him in the direction to get help. So it never really caused any big issues for him. I mean, he wasn't in jail and he didn't hurt anybody. He never hurt himself. But
a lot of schizophrenia people, they fixate on religious stuff. They fixate on the devil and God, and they go like cuckoo for
They're always
puffs.
Grandiose. Like they always feel like it's like my dad was not on a religious level, but he always thought, like, he would tell me he just got back from Vietnam, and then he'd start speaking gibberish. So he thought he was on this special trip
in Vietnam.
No, he was no, too many drugs.
My dad too. What do you know?
So it was also the late 70s or mid 70s whenever he was 18, 19. So Vietnam was actually dying down. He was never drafted, and then but yeah, I mean, he done a lot of drugs.
So how did you guys meet on a happy note? Tell me, because I don't know the story.
But we met, he's probably better at like the actual story, but we met through a mutual friend, my really good friend at the time. And she'd always talk about him. Like, they were just kind of casual friends and they get coffee and stuff together. One night he was at the same bar and I was hanging out with Jessica, and I think he went over to say hi to Jessica. And I don't really remember. It's pretty fuzzy because I was
never what Jen drunk.
So I just went up and talked to her, and she was drinking. Back then, she drank a gin
tonic.
Yeah. Ooh. And so the little stir straws.
Yeah.
She was drunk and she was trying to find the stir straws.
Oh no! I love you, Jen.
So my first line to her was, "Don't you hate it when your straw betrays you?" She laughed. We talked for a little bit, but I knew she was too drunk to really carry too much of a conversation. So I think I was only there for about 40 minutes, but then I messaged Jessica as soon as I left and asked if it'd be all right if I looked her up on Facebook and messaged her, and she said, yeah. And
oh my God.
The rest was history. Now we have a daughter.
Yeah, Jessica's like, Jonathan thinks you're beautiful. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Oh my God, there's hope. This is good. This is giving me hope.
And she actually lived a couple hours away.
At the time, I lived in a different city.
She lived in Indianapolis, and we made it work for just a little over a year. traveling back and forth.
Cute. I didn't know the straw story.
Oh, that's adorable.
Yeah.
Love at first straw.
Love it for straw. I love that.
Oh my gosh.
I didn't pull up and like hand her my atheist card or anything.
Do you believe in God?
It wouldn't have worked out.
That would have been a little weird.
She did have cross earrings, and I remember she wore them.
I had cross earrings?
Yeah. Well,
Really?
maybe not that night, but you wore cross earrings for
I don't
months
remember
and months
those.
afterwards. And we never really broached the subject.
I
Yeah.
was more religious when we first started dating too. Before this podcast, we've kind of talked about like how you're with somebody for so long, you kind of mold into like the same person. Most,
Oh,
like,
100%. Yeah.
Yes.
Guilty.
Like, yeah, like you're just kind of, we think a lot alike and, we know what each other likes and all that kind of stuff. So I think I might have been going to church at that time too. We've definitely like influenced each other.
I have a question. It's kind of more serious, but so when it comes to your kid, Scarlett, have you guys had like conversations like how you're going to approach that kind of stuff?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think that really helps too, like being on the same parenting guidelines. Because we talked a lot before we had kids, like how we want to raise our kids. And it's kind of, I feel like it's a lot like how your parents raised you, Amy. Like they didn't talk negatively about it. They let you figure out what you believed in. Like they allowed you to go to church with me and, just kind of pick what you believe in. I'm going to be open with her about like just what I believe in and my thoughts. And I'm sure Jonathan will be open with her too, allowing her to just kind of explore on her own and just be supportive of her through that journey is kind of, I think,
Yes.
what we're going to do.
Well, with my family, I remember like, because I would go to church like after slumber parties and like, there was a stage, I think like maybe middle school, maybe even early high school where I was like religious. So I went to a church camp and I remember, I don't know if I ever told you this story, Jen. I was at a church camp and I think Tara Neth maybe invited me. I can't remember who invited me, but
I went to church with her a couple times.
And they had us during the church camp they're like, for anyone who's not saved, raise your hand. And they made everyone close their eyes, right? And so I raised my hand and they're like, do you want to be saved tonight? So I saved myself that night. And then I told the camp counselor later, like I saved myself. Well, the church I went to, I remember it was all like, if you're not saved, you're going to hell. And I remember in that time of my life, I was really struggling with it. Because I was like, no one in my family's religious. And that's when I tried to save my dog.
Oh, I do remember you telling me that.
Yeah.
That is so funny because I'm pretty for sure it wasn't at my church that I was saved. I think it was at Tara Neth's church.
It's not a Methodist
like,
belief system.
Yeah, it's not a Methodist belief system. So it was at somebody's church. It might have been her church. And it was just during like a youth group kind of thing.
That seems so psychologically fucked up to do to a youth or child.
It is.
Yeah.
So Amy, when they all closed their eyes and you were asked to raise your hand or everybody raised their hands if they weren't safe, did you feel pressured to or spoken to do it?
I don't think I could speak much on how I felt, but I definitely felt like embarrassed because it was kind of like you're the one who's not saved because it's obviously like everyone else was saved. And I don't think I ever told you, I don't know if I ever Jen, you remember this, but I went to church with you one time and there was some lady who was teaching Sunday school and she asked for my address because she was asking me, she was like, well, as a family, what do you guys do? And I was like, well, we don't go to church. And then she would write me a letter every Sunday saying she missed me. Did you know that?
Really? I wonder who it was. That's
she was like, she like got my address and she would write me cards all the time. Like, we missed you this Sunday. We missed you this. And it was always the same thing. Like, she didn't have much else to say. Like, we missed you this Sunday.
Okay, so
that's what I'm saying. Creepy. Don't like it.
Yeah.
Circling back to where beliefs become harmful, she certainly didn't believe that she was being harmful.
Yeah.
But that can be very damaging.
Yeah.
And very creepy.
Very creepy.
Beliefs can be harmful whether you like it or not.
Mm-hmm.
So, Jonathan, you had mentioned early on too that you were quote unquote saved. Did you
Yes.
have to go through the similar experience that Amy just described?
Yeah. I mean, so again, I was always trying to fit in. That was like the recurring theme of my youth. I never
I
really.
think we all
a lot
were.
of people were.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we all
I always
were.
felt like the new kid. Yes, I felt pressured to raise my hand and be saved. I remember I went home and told my mom that at this event I got saved, and she was like, "That's not what we do." So, but I didn't bother me. I had friends that understood. So,
Wow.
See, that's so interesting. I learned something new today because I thought being saved was like a Christian thing. I didn't know it mattered on the denomination of the Christian faith.
so like Baptists believe in just being baptized and then being baptized again. Methodist is you have to be baptized and confirmed is all it takes.
Okay, I didn't know all that.
In order, the confirmation is your quote unquote saving.
Because I had to do classes to actually be like confirmed in the church. I think maybe I was like 8th grade.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I had to do like classes, but it was all like
I took a test.
Mm-hmm.
Damn, Gina.
Yeah.
I didn't have to do any test. I like phoned it in, and it was just like, here's my confirmation. Here's my confirmation. Or my
it was
communion.
It wasn't
my confirmation.
I don't know if it was pass fail, but it was basically what are the 10 commandments? Who's Jesus's mom? Stuff like that. It was pretty simple.
Who's Jesus' mom? She got it going on.
Jesus' mom has got it going on.
But that brings up a good point. Now I'm just like kind of scared if Scarlett goes with a friend to church. Like I need to do research beforehand to make sure, like, these things don't happen because I don't
want to prepare her for what to expect.
Okay.
I can talk a lot on this subject because I remember one time I got invited to like a 24-hour lockdown. You couldn't eat or something.
That's when I got saved.
Crying before I went because I was like, I remember.
I'm so sorry, you guys. My heart like literally hurts right now.
But I was crying because I remember felt like I was going to be such an outcast because I knew they were going to go around and say the church. And I was like always kind of like the black sheep because I didn't have religious parents. I remember beforehand sitting down with my mom crying. And I was like, I'm just so embarrassed because we don't go to church. And I like it. But
that's hard.
At the end of the day, I think it was good. My parents let me go experience that. I don't I think what my parents did was right because I got to experience like going to all these different churches, and then on my own accord, I could decide like if I believe or I don't believe. But at least I got like the experience. I know it was like sometimes I felt like an outcast or I was embarrassed by like my family not believing in it, but I don't think it was anything like harmful. Maybe it was a little character building I needed in the end of the day, like to maybe more like, and I think by doing that, it made me more open to other people's beliefs. Because I remember when I went to college and I made friends with like Matt and Joan, all of them, they were like atheists. And I hated when we had parties when they would like try to shove their atheist views down on like religious people. Because I'm like, that you're just one extreme is not doesn't make up for the other extreme.
Right.
At my suitor at my apartment. He's only like 28 years old. So first of all, ew. But second of all, he was talking a lot of great sex game. And I was like, okay, what's up? What's up? And then he, all of a sudden, after I broke my ankle, which I'm finally healed, but he was talking, it's like something about like, I need to give my life to Jesus and God bless you. And he would keep going on and on and on and on about Jesus and God bless you. And then just last night, homie texted me and was like, I had to move out and it's better this way. And I can tell you don't want to be my friends, but it was blessing meeting you. God bless. And I go, whoa, Assumption City #1. I was trying to at least get coffee with you, but you made it clear you didn't want a romantic relationship. I'm looking for D right now. Okay. That's my life goal as a 35-year-old single woman, but I respected your Jesus views and I'm still going to get coffee with you, but you just blew it up your chances last night. And I was like, God bless, deuces. See you later, homie. I feel bad, but like clearly unstable because one minute he was like so sweet and trying to be sexy. And then he was like, Jesus. And I was like, I ain't going there. Bye. See you later. So, next.
Yeah. Like if somebody's doesn't really know you that well and is already talking about Jesus, I feel like that's a red flag.
Yeah. Major. Throw it up.
Well, do you know how to have like a good time? I'm not ever like texting people like, hey, you want to talk about Jesus tonight?
Have you ever seen Jesus? That was a good looking man.
I mean, talking.
Jonathan, I love you for that because I don't know if Jen's made you listen to this part of the podcast, but we have a thing. It's called Sexy Jesus because I think Jesus was a fine ass brown man who had a lot of ladies and maybe male suitors. I think he got around and I think he was fine as fuck. I'm just saying.
Did you just say Jesus was bisexual?
I think
I bet he was.
I think
I mean, he did surround himself with a lot of men.
He had a lot of miracles to work. You know what I'm saying? Miracle pipe. I don't know.
I know how to put it down, flip it down, and reverse it.
So anyway, Sexy Jesus is actually welcome.
They're hilarious.
Sexy Jesus is a Bewitched banter staple.
Did you just say Jesus knows how to lay the pipe?
Yeah, sure did. Of course he does.
Well, no, he was a carpenter, not a pipe fitter.
Well, hey, carpenter's got good hands. You know what I mean? Strong hands. That works for me too. I'm just glad that you also agree that Jesus was an attractive man. Thank you, Jonathan. It's not just
he
me.
was hot. On that cross, hell yeah.
Yeah, but he was also like a doomsday prophet. So
Yeah,
I don't know
good
that you
point.
would have gotten.
Wait.
I don't know. That
I
you
would have been a
gotten to the
fangirl,
coffee
though. I would have been like,
first.
yeah, end of the world, you're sexy. No, I don't know. I'm just speculating because I am often on the prowl. So,
Wait, what were you going to say about him being a doomsday prophet?
What do you mean by that?
Well, I don't really believe in like the biblical Jesus, right? Historically, what he probably was just a doomsday. I shouldn't say prophet, but rabbi. Everybody agrees that he probably was. He probably did exist. There was probably a rabbi back then named, what was it, Yeshua or Jesus? But then Jesus, yeah, definitely Mexican. Most of his teachings were these are the end of days. When I die, what is it? The rock will crack, and I will come back and I will bring you all with me. The fact that it's 2,000 plus years later, and he still hasn't come back is just proof that.
sorry, that shit is so funny. So deadpan.
It's been 2,000 years, Jesus.
Yeah.
We're waiting.
Well,
You're really late to the party.
Really late.
Really late. Like,
So another reason why you probably wouldn't have got coffee with him. He's not very punctual.
Yeah, amen. You're right.
But
well,
no,
he is a Latin man. What do you know?
They had no concept of thousands of years back then. That's just silly. But yeah, that's what he was.
Yeah, it's interesting.
A doomsday rabbi. Not
Yeah.
prophet, I don't know.
You know what's funny? Like you brought up rabbi, and I don't think Christianity obviously takes its own lens, but like back in the day, I was watching some History Channel thing, and he was actually doing good things, it sounded like, until it got co-opted into Christianity and became like all about money and power and control. But it sounded like to me he was actually really trying to teach people about positive ways to live, not very far off from like what Jen and I's beliefs are of just like being united in nature and like taking care of one another and, you know, the 10 Commandments in a sense, but not so co-opted by, you know, authoritarianism essentially, right?
Yeah.
Like, and power.
So
are we still talking about Jesus?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know.
Amy, we lost Ames.
Amy's eyes glazed over.
It's hard to say what he did and didn't teach.
Sorry.
I mean, before there was, I don't know the term. I think it's like the Council of Sinai or Sinai. They got together.
Similar.
Say it again.
Oh, I was going to say, sorry, that sounds similar to what I was watching. So yeah.
Oh, okay. And then
they got together and they decided the canonical books of the Bible. I think it's 66 books in the Bible. But before that, there was a whole bunch of other books. You can go online and find out some of the books that were X'd out and said, these don't follow the teachings or these aren't divinely inspired. So a group of men, speaking of the patriarch, got together and said, these are the divine teachings of God. This is what he wants you to know. And that's what you read as the Bible now, for the most part at least. To say that this is what Jesus did and didn't teach, again, this question.
Who knows? Exactly.
And that was my biggest question when it came to the Bible. Like, because I know they said that it was like passed down. And I was like, that's like telephone. Like, how do people believe that this is the word of God when it's had been in so many people's hands of power that had authority to change it? And that was like probably one of the big arguments maybe that caused me not to believe in it. Cause I started to be like, well, who wouldn't change it? Like, and how can you trust these people? They passed it down for that, like, I don't know, 2,000 years. I never know the time frame of when Jesus was around, but you're like, well, I guess it's BC. I don't know.
I mean,
I swear I'm not dumb.
And people taking it still to today, like taking it so literally, you
Mhm.
know,
Or
like,
out of complete context.
yes,
Making it their own.
yes.
there's a new
It's just
documentary
ridiculous.
coming out. I believe it's called 1956. Someone can correct me if
Okay.
I'm wrong. But it talks about how, like, at a certain date, let's say 1956, they started changing the word verbiage in the Bible. Like the word homosexuality wasn't even in there until this revision.
Until 1956?
Something like that, yeah.
That recent?
Yeah, well,
That is
there's a
crazy.
lot of things happened when communism was like taking over. They
Ah.
started really like combining them with religion. So
That's scary.
yeah. So whenever we started seeing "In God We Trust" on our money, that's when we put God into our Pledge of Allegiance.
So I didn't realize "In God We Trust" wasn't always on the bills.
No, that's since the 50s. I mean, 1956 may not be the
Wow.
exact date, but it's the 50s. And same thing for
Wow.
One Nation Under God. It was
That's interesting.
it was all to combat the rise of communism.
Oh.
They started because
man.
communism kind of billed itself as atheist and non-theistic. They weren't. They were just secular. It was not even true communism. It was closer to statism. Sorry, now I'm tangenting.
No, that's okay.
There's a new documentary that talks about how like they started changing the verbiage in the Bible to be anti-homosexual and
Wow. I'm gonna have to watch that.
speaking to really, it was they had a new agenda essentially.
Yeah, right. Money and power, what it's always been about since fucking day one, since Jesus.
Well, and that's
Yes.
another thing with religion. And now I know it's not all Christianity, but at least the churches I was exposed to, it was like, we are the lucky ones who get to go to heaven, but heaven forbid this person hasn't encountered this teaching and they go to hell. And I was like, I just can't wrap my head around that you want to believe in someone who'd be like, hey, you didn't believe in me, so now you need to be punished for eternity.
Yep.
Just some of the arguments didn't make sense to me.
Yep. So it's always been a thorn in the teaching that any God that says I have to bend a knee to him is just not worthy of my worship or my devotion. It's just not.
I appreciate that.
Maybe
very
I'm
much.
a little bit more into democracy than authoritarianism, but I know, right? So I've always believed that leaders that don't want to lead are the best. People that just kind of get thrown into it. People that really want to lead and want to be powerful, and this is just more on an earthly level than a heavenly, are better leaders. People who just they feel compelled to do it because one reason or another they want to help humanity.
They have a good motive.
They have a good motive.
Yeah.
People who just want to lead because they want to be in charge or they like the power. It's usually bad people. So then you apply that to a heavenly level. God's very authoritarian. The first 4 or 5 commandments are basically how to worship him.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's just a disservice. There's so many things he could have listed in those 10 commandments. And again, why limit yourself to 10? But child molestation is not even in there, which always bothered me.
That's pretty bad.
I mean, there's all these instructions on how to worship him, but no mention of like, hey, maybe you shouldn't own people as slaves or property.
Right.
Well, it was written when people had slaves, so it makes sense why.
How very anthropomorphic.
Big word. I've been watching
well, I mean, aren't most monotheistic gods very anthropomorphic? It's us projecting our views and our zeitgeist onto
Very
something more.
much.
So for the non-believers, when I'm going through a difficult time, I'll have like coping mechanisms and things I can fall back on and do to help myself. When it's really rough, I do go into the spiritual route and, try to practice more or do more. And that really like kind of helps me get out of ruts. So for the non-believers, what do you guys do to function and to help yourself get out of ruts or get out of bad times, or like when you do have bad experiences to kind of help you get through it?
I think first of all, I do want to put out there, I've lived a very privileged life, so I don't feel like I could say that. I mean, everyone has their highs and lows, but I
Right.
haven't been through anything too traumatic. Thankfully, knock on wood. Like I haven't lost a parent or experienced any of that yet. So I think when that happens in my life, that it's going to really unsettle me, and that's going to be really hard because I don't have that spiritual background or the belief in God to believe that my family's in heaven. When that day does come, it's going to be really rough for me. I will say that. And like, I'm not going to be prepared for it, probably because I don't have those spiritual beliefs. So that is going to be tough. When I have been like down or depressed, I really think or just like go out and distract myself. I was going to say that next. Sometimes I hit the bottle hard, which is definitely not a healthy coping mechanism. But I have been I think I've had that moment you're like drinking wine, getting a little drunk because you're sad. But
yeah.
And I do think that'll be hard, but I do think one thing, and Corey always says this, and I kind of love it, because Corey's family's religious, and now I don't know if he's like totally atheist, but he's kind of doesn't believe in a God. But he always says we have one life, and how beautiful is that? Like, you have to make it the life you want and make the most of it. But if this is your only life, you better live it the way you want to and make the most of it. I think it's hard for me to talk about just because I haven't had like that really traumatic episode. But when I think I lose my first like person I'm really close to, that's gonna be really tough for me.
Because I feel like grief, I do a lot of grief work with kids and everything, and coincides a lot with religion and spirituality and just feeling connection. We tap into that a lot. It would be hard to navigate that, I think, as an atheist.
I probably will be hitting the wine bottle hard.
Sure.
When I die.
yeah, I probably won't be able to function. But I think most people, when you have extreme grief, like nothing in life prepares you for that.
Yeah. You just have to go through it,
I think I handle it just like anybody else. I just don't pray. I mean, so
he has had people, like his uncle was his best friend, and he never swayed through the whole thing. I don't know. He just got through it.
It's just everything that everybody else does minus prayer, and that's not to say I don't actually pray. I remember there was a night that I broke down when my uncle, after he was diagnosed and working in the medical field for the small time that I did, I knew how bad his prognosis was. So I broke down in my car driving home. I pulled over and cried and yelled and screamed at something I don't even believe in, asking why, what am I going to do? I wasn't talking to anybody. There wasn't anybody in the car, but I remember repeating, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? How does this work without him? It's as much of a prayer as I'm ever going to get out. But yeah, I go through the process like everybody else. I grieve. I lean on friends and family. Jennifer was around. She was an instrumental part in getting me through it. And then, I drink like any other 30-year-old.
We're all guilty of that. Yeah. That coping mechanism.
Prayer is a great thing. Taking a moment to be mindful and reflect on what's happening, talk to something that you believe is going to help you through it, I think is a great thing. Never tell someone. My mom tells me on a regular basis, you may be an atheist, but I'll pray for you. And that's fine. I think it's great. If it comforts my mother, then it's great.
So you pray, but you just don't pray to a higher power.
I just don't actually believe
you just like kind of talk to yourself.
Yeah.
Do you guys think more of like the universe kind of as like, because I think like the universe is kind of like my heaven almost.
Me too.
Yeah, there's more,
nature and universe, right? Universe arguably is nature, right? So
yes.
I think that's where I lean to.
So there's naturalist pantheism, which effectively says the universe is the higher power or the being. And you can either think that it has a mind, an unembodied mind, and is interacting with you or with itself, or it doesn't. I mean, you can definitely lump me in with a naturalistic pantheist. I believe the universe exists. I believe it's probably the highest form of energy there is. But I also don't believe that it's an unembodied mind. I don't think that the universe is interacting with me and helping me out, or vice versa.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like the universe is probably like, God, can you get off this planet? Like the general
can Earth just explode now?
not general me, but I feel like everyone, they're like, damn, you're climate change, fuck you, we've had enough of you humans, get off of here.
Just the idea that the universe
had your time.
the exclamation of God is humorous to me. The unembodied universe would be like, God dang it.
I always joke the aliens just drive past us because they're like, we're not fucking with Earth. That's a shit show.
Who wants to fuck with us?
Yeah.
No, we're just killing ourselves. We're good.
I do have a serious question.
Yeah.
Do you drink your moon water, or what do you do with it? I need to know.
Stewing on it.
Serious question.
I mean, what do you do? What do you do with this moon water?
I usually don't drink it, but I have washed my hands with it or put it on. It's just kind of a healing, another healing property.
Okay, my mind is blown. Should we wrap it up on that note on moon water? Do you think?
What it is?
What's the sign off?
Our sign off? Peace be witches.
Oh yes. Okay, I'll do it. Peace be witches.
Peace.